18 as we kick on with a new tournament, a new season, and a new chance for us to spin some yarns as ANZ's very finest bring us some action in the pre-trainer to the preseason. My name is Skimmy, joined by Vandy for the very first time, the OG duet that is us together. Vandy, just casted that game there. It was a game of two tales, a scene of showing from the dark side of lads for 15 minutes, but one boss and one man known as Ice Boiled Water came on in with the goods. And that game flipped on its head in just a moment's notice.
I mean, we already saw the pendulum starting to swing. I mean, those team fights, they just were going a little bit rocky for Darkside, and they're very much aware of it. They did have that open keep, and they saw their win chance, but Outlaws were there to stop them. And that game was just so enjoyable. We're back to Battlefield of Eternity, though, and I am super duper excited. We get to see Outlaws play again, and this time it's going to be against Crimson. Any tips, any insights going into this one?
Outlaws against Crimson, Battlefield of Eternity. I really haven't actually seen too many scrims during this off-season, so I can't really give too much insight. But if I was a betting man, given the fact that it's a full roster against a non-complete roster, you'd have to hand it to Crimson. For the most part, Darksided were in full control of that. It just came to that all-important boss throw. I don't want to call it a boss throw completely, but it definitely felt a little bit like that. So I'll definitely give the edge to Crimson at this stage. But, you know, if
anyone's
get those poisons, I tell you what, something crazy could happen.
Yeah, that's how I felt too. Crimson rocking their full roster. They've been probably scrimming in the dark, playing together, making sure that they're tightening all the screws before season actually kicks off. And I mean, although this day is for fun, it was still great to see how well the unit of Outlaws came together. Like, very enjoyable to see. And I mean, Panda, I think she was saying it was her first time on Malfurion. Bang up job. Sometimes the first time you get a bit of that beginner's luck.
That is
but she didn't need it.
Is she like Salt Bay, just like sprinkling the salt in opposition right now? Like, you know, first time mouth, by the way. Haha, XD.
That's it, right? You can tell.
That's a feels bad right there. But this game, it is the winners finals, I believe. So this is a best of three, so no best of ones anymore. We're going to actually get to see a series on our hands. So this time we're going to really see the true test of determination and strength that these teams have prepared for this off-season and tournament. So without further ado, I'm just checking this lobby chat to see if these guys are ready to rock and roll. They set a 2-minute break, and we'll see if that 2-minute break has passed already. I've got the ready on one side, the ready on the other side. Hit that go button. We will jump into game number one of this upper bracket final, Battlefield of Eternity.
Well, thanks, Skimmy and Vandy. My name's Kit Fox. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As you two intro hosts just said, it is going to be Crimson versus Outlaws, and these guys have had a pretty good run. You just saw Outlaws knock off they are still the champions, technically Darksided, with a brand new roster. So Outlaws, it wasn't as convincing, as clean cut as they would have hoped, but hey, they'll be looking to make amends and come back hard and fast on Battlefield of Eternity. But someone who is clean and cut is Crimson. We saw the way they played against Downfall, and everything was just surgically executed. Let's see if they can replicate that here, but I'm joined by GL Phoenix. GLP, who are you backing coming into this one?
Oh, it's a real tough one there. I mean, you very rightly pointed out Crimson's very strong precision in how they were dismantling some of their opponents. You probably go towards Crimson for how clean they looked, but you can't count out the Outlaws. We saw in the last game, they were getting battered and bruised throughout that entire game. But once they hit that stride, once they hit that spike, they were able to just clean up the fight and do or just finish up the match within a few minutes. And so Battlefield of Eternity is one of those maps where you can either end really quickly or you can get drawn out a little bit longer than you would have wanted. So a little bit of anything could happen here, but we'll just have to wait and see how it goes in the draft. So Sonya, the Rayman, are going to be taken away in the first bans. We've seen them throughout the day be very strong, very stable picks, so just not wanting to allow anyone to have those.
So I believe it's Outlaws that are on Team Red.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, so they're going to go for the first pick. It's going to be Li Ming, so not too bad. It doesn't really give too much away in terms of what you're going to be rolling with, but it's a solid DPS pick. You want something to be able to deal damage to that Immortal efficiently, and Malthael and Lucio are now going to be locked in as well in retaliation from Crimson on blue.
Yeah, the Malthael, I mean, we're not seeing it picked into the Sonya like we've seen a couple of times already today, but he will be very strong into almost all solo laners, and he will would do reasonably well. Whoever ends up getting thrown into that solo lane, he will be able to sustain quite well. He does a reasonable amount of damage to the Immortal just on his own. And also, we're not running into the same situation that we saw in the previous game. We saw him where you have the Malthael go in with the Tormented Souls and have the Lucio sound barrier to completely negate it. The Lucio is now on his side, so he can help him just like rush him in even quicker and get those very good value Tormented Souls, and that damage is going to stick.
It will. I mean, Malthael is one of those sticky champions. Vandy was talking about Deceptive's Illidan. How strong he is in terms of being like, honey. And Malthael is exactly that. And now, bang, here we go. Get some Hanzo hype in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Outlaws are whipping it out. And let's see what Crimson are going to answer this one back with. They definitely weren't expecting that, I can guarantee you. Now it's their ban. I think they just might be shaken up a little bit here. They'll have to call on their experience to see, just to compose themselves here. Because Hanzo, we've seen him once today, but definitely is one that teams are not expecting.
Well, I know that Altivian loves playing Hanzo, so he's very aware of what he can and can't do, and what's good against him and what's good with him. So they will have a reasonable idea of how to play the rest of this draft. The Malfurion ban is more or less one of those standard ones we see once you start to chip away at the support picks. You got the Lucio, who's still very high up there. The Malfurion is probably one of the top priority picks for support as well. We've seen how influential those Twilight Dreams have been. The Moonfire build has also been a very strong boon for his strength in lane. You start Moonfiring people and start wailing away at them. It's a lot of damage that you don't really expect coming out of someone like a Malfurion.
Yeah, and it just opens it up for the rest of the team to collapse on top of that build that you were talking about there, the Moonfire. It's nasty. It chips away, and you just really don't expect it. It's like dealing with a Proteus. You just look at him thinking, and he's a little probe. He's a probe. Exactly. What are you doing here? You're out of place. And
all of a sudden,
bang.
The pylon start wailing away at you, and just like, ow, ow, ow. Yeah. Why are you doing this?
This hurts. Stop it, please. Stop it. But it's now going to be Outlaws. They've got their final 2 picks. What are they going to use to complement this? They do need a solid support. So Rhaegar's still available. I don't know what else they'd be trying to go with that. There's not really a solid battery to justify an Oriel.
Yeah. They also need to be very wary of the Tracer Tassadar combination. We saw it in the first game and how it was able to essentially just bypass the front line and just really punish the back line, which is what we saw in that game. There was a Hanzo and the Lily in the back line. They were not having a very fun time against that Tracer. Sure, you can blind her, but she's still going to do a lot of damage, and those pulse bombs are going to do a lot of work, and that is actually a pretty good response to the Tracer. If you're able to drag her in with the telekinesis and hit her with that Discord strike, silencing the Tracer makes her incredibly vulnerable and can die incredibly quickly.
It will be up to... Who do you think is going to be playing that one? Johanna's a pretty good solid pick. They did need a front line. Johanna fills that role. Did damage as well. And good blind as well. So Hanzo with his extremely slow attack. Alarak, physical attack damage dealer as well. So at close range, on his abilities are on cooldown. That will come in handy with that glaring shield. But hey, let's see who's going to come out here. It is a best of 3 series, ladies and gentlemen. And Hanzo is being whipped out once again. Get excited because I know that I am, and this is going to pop off. Crimson versus Outlaws. GLP, if you're a betting man, who would you be throwing your money on?
Oh, it's a bit of a rough one. I'm probably going to go more towards Crimson because we've seen how well coordinated and how precise they've been as a team. And looking at the composition, that is a composition that rewards that kind of play. We saw it in the first game of the day where the TAS Tracer was able to tear apart a lineup with very vulnerable backlines, and if they're able to get that play to stick in this one, I can very well see it going in favor of Crimson.
Yeah, the Tracer Dart combo is something that is definitely tried, tested, and proven to deal massive amounts of misery to your opponent. But hey, let's get it on. We're on Battlefield of Eternity. It is going to be Crimson against the Outlaws. Crimson are on blue. We've got KVA on Johanna, Altivian on Tassadar, Shadow is playing Lucio, Jez Mez on Malthael, and Azure is playing Tracer.
And on the red side, they were getting pummeled in the previous game, but they managed to pull it out. It is the Outlaws. They have Gondo on the Hanzo, they have IBW forever on that ETC. Yet again, they have Lahal on the Alarak. Coffee is on Lei Ming, and Pandemonium is now on the Uther.
Let's see what this Hanzo man can do, and more specifically Lahal on the Alarak. We saw him play a pretty good Nazebo. Different kettle of fish when you are playing this champion. I mean, he does have a very high skill cap. It looks like a pause is being caused, so we might have to get that one underway. No, Blank, what are you doing? No, we're going on, we're good.
You're good, you're good. All right, we're just going to get back into it. But very interestingly enough, we have a bit of a lane swap coming out from the side of Crimson, not wanting to just walk face first into that very scary combination of the Alarak, the ETC, and also the Li Ming. They move their Taz Tracer up to the top side and try and punish this Hanzo for his rather limited wave clear early on.
Lahal, doing good damage, actually catching out Jesmez there with the Malthael. We talked a lot about that Discord strike and how much of a pain it is to Tracer, but hey, you put it on Malthael as well, he's not able to Death Shroud, he's not able to sustain himself, and that timing is pivotal when you're playing against somebody like that. Now you can see him sucked in again with the Discord strike, condemned from KVA, all the Arcane Orb from Coffee comes in from downtown. IBW goes in with the Wombo combo, Jesmez trying to sustain, gets caught on the side of the Discord strike. Very unfortunate to be caught in that one, but hey, he does get taken down. First blood going over to the side of Outlaws, and they'll be pretty pleased with themselves there, GLP.
Yeah, nice little pick up there. Just a little bit over-aggressive and not really respecting the extra rotation coming down from the side of Outlaws. Crimson getting punched in that one, but they're not going to be too upset about that. Yeah, it's not fun to give up those kills. It's a bit of a blow to the morale, but they are still getting advantages elsewhere. As we see on the top side, the Taz Tracer, they're able to push very... I'm not sure he's able to do a little damage onto the Taz and Tracer themselves, but without all that much wave clear in his kit, he's having to be rather cautious with how far he pushes forward, and he's just going to be suffering a lot of siege damage.
So now they continue to aggress to Outlaws down in this bottom lane. Meanwhile, up in the top, Gondo's just duked it out with a Zero and Ultivia, and that Tracer it's going to cause him a few issues, but hey, he's got good pokies. Hanzo currently topping that hero damage at just under 6k. And like I mentioned, first blood on the side of Outlaws, the bottom lane where it's going to go at. KVA catches everybody. The glare, good blind effect, but well, when you've got Coffee just hocking orbs on the back line, blind does not matter when you're a Li Ming, and now they continue to siege down this tower rather. Meanwhile, up in the top lane, the Kazra is going to be taken by Crimson, so they'll get that pushing on in the top lane, just as the Immortals spawn. So this is that surgical precision we were talking about before, GLP. As soon as the Immortals spawn, their attention turns over to the camps. Good Sonic Arrow just revealing there, and now Hanzo, he's actually going to finish up that level 1 talent redemption already, so expect him to go for that massive auto attack damage build.
Yeah, we did see a nice attempt at a pick coming out for Outlaws, but they just weren't able to finish it off. And with the help of that Lucio pushing everyone away, but very quick first coming down onto this immortal. The space is already being cleaned up on the side of Outlaws, as it looks like Crimson want to try and just play the very aggressive defense, just force Outlaws away and allow that camp on the top side to get as much value as possible, trying to delay this immortal phase as much as possible, but there's only so much they can actually do with where they are right now.
KVA is extremely deep there on the Johanna. Shield Glare is down. Now, same as Ironskin, needs to be careful, backs away, got no mana in the bank, backs it off, still the Immortal, halfway down, but here come Crimson. They get a push on of their own. And the Immortal race is now on. Who's going to take this one? Currently going over in favour of Outlaws. I think they're going to get it, but yes. But 5k shield isn't too bad. It is only the first Immortal, so nothing to hang your heads too low about GLP. They'll be getting up on there. They recall, they heal themselves back up, and they reset.
Yeah, but one thing we need to be a little bit aware of is the rather limited anti-siege coming out from the side of Crimson. Yes, they do have very good ways to go all in and punish like individual members, but once they start getting pushed in, yeah, they have the Side Storm coming out from the Tassadar, but the Tracer can't really be the reliable anti-siege and wave clear that they want in this kind of situation, and they have to be very careful with how they play it. Yes, they do enough to deal with that shield and force the Immortal into melee range, but you see how far back they're having to play and how cautious they are, especially with that Alak on that front line. If he manages to get that Discord strike onto one of those very squishy targets, with all the follow-up that's available, that's pretty much going to be lights out with that.
Especially if he actually, like that. Especially if he lands and actually builds stacks upon his talents. I mean, he's one of those high-risk, high-reward players, and Lahal is playing to perfection at the moment. Hasn't really finished any of his quests just yet, but hey, he's not doing too bad in terms of... telekinesis is narrowly missing. Meanwhile, on the side of Crimson, KVA is doing a great job here on the front line. He knows when to get in, get out, and just shows his experience as a player. Currently, Crimson are behind, and Outlaws are doing well. Panda is playing fantastic on the Uther, just throwing out heals. Now, both of these teams are going to turn their attention to the Shaman camps. And, well, at least Outlaws are. Crimson, actually, they might go for the bottom Kazaras.
Yeah, it looked like they're in a few minds, and what they want to start doing, they probably thought that there was going to be a few members of Outlaws on the bottom side contesting that Kaja, but they are going to...
here we go.
Now, but it looks like we could have an eventual fight as the Outlaws start working their way there, but already picked up by Desmez, but this could start a fight.
Or IBW goes in with the power slide. Didn't actually collect anybody up there. Does have crowd surface, so can get over the terrain. Meanwhile, the bottom camp going to be cleaned up very quickly there by the Outlaws. Not a lot of value for Crimson apart from a little bit of experience. KVA in the top lane, meanwhile, is going to do exactly that. Meanwhile, back down in the bottom lane. They're going to try and siege down this tower. Outlaws, they're just gearing up for it. They're mounting. Are they going to go all in? IBW just lurking on that front line, goblining his way around on that ETC. Leeming still chucking out the orbs. And the wave clear is actually pretty good on the side of Crimson. So without the minion waves to protect them, Outlaws are going to decide to bail out on this one as the Immortal phase is now going in. And Crimson, this is where they have the advantage. They save their Shamans for the Immortal phase. They time it, they pop it, and then they go in and let the creeps do the rest.
Yeah, this is a potential play that's going to work out very well. Or a play that's potentially going to work out very well for them should this Immortal phase get drawn out, as I think they will want to have happen. Trying to let this Shaman cap try and close this experience gap. But for now, I feel as though Crimson are wanting to try and make a play happen before the level 10 gets picked up on the side of Outlaws. But with members on the top side taking that Kazu camp, they're not able to get any play working, so they're just going to be forced into playing rather conservative, trying to just get experience where they can and be a little bit careful about any potential engage coming out for the Outlaws.
So the Immortal now is getting chunked down by Jesmez and Shadow, who Shadow now gets the call to come back in. They need a little bit of support on the bot lane. Lahal again with another good Discord strike, telekinesis landed there. The Shamans now need to be cleared out by the Outlaws. They are going to be done so, but the Immortal, it's a dead rubber so far, GLP. Gondo is just dishing out the damage on this Hanzo, just soloing it up here at the moment. Will they engage again? The Sonic Arrow goes out. Oh, that's what we were talking about! Lahal catches Jesmez. With the telekinesis Discord strike in with the counter now. Lahal taking a lot of damage. The Tormented Soul sucking up so many damage. IBW in and out of the mosh pit. You blink and you would have missed it. Shadow now gets dropped by the Scatter Arrow of Gondo. They are still engaging. They're throwing haymakers here. Both of these teams, it's 3v3. Malthael gets taken down as well. Leeming with these resets, just unable to catch a zero on the Tracer. The Outlaws convincing there in the end. Ultivian trying his best on Tassadar to throw out a couple Psionic Storms just to try and displace Outlaws. But wow, that was a fight, GLP.
Yeah, it was really close back and forth. It looked like it was going to be a pretty good spot when the Malthael was able to get right into the lineup of the Outlaws with their Tormented Souls going across most of them, but just wasn't really enough, and they weren't able to get those killing blows. They were able to get one or two, but they weren't able to translate that into much more. And as you mentioned, the Leeming, once she got started, she was not going to stop, able to clean up quite a few members of Crimson. From that, they're able to get the Immortal. They're going to be able to push down this fort. There's not really a hell of what the Crimson can do to really force away this push. And one thing to note is that Hanzo has been going for the Storm talent, Storm Bolt, Storm Bow talents. Those are the words I was trying to get out. But yeah, he does have those Shield Breaker arrows, which is one thing that's going to be very powerful, especially against this combination of the Tazza and the Tracer. She goes forward expecting that that shield to be on and relying on that for a lot of the durability. Once she takes one of those Stormbow shots at arrows, that shield is going to be down immediately, and that's going to make her incredibly vulnerable. So very interesting build coming out for this specific situation, but it's working out very well right now.
Yeah, not to mention the Lucio as well. That completely nullifies Sound Barrier. IBW goes in. The spot we were talking about. The Counter-Strike goes in. Ults up plenty. Archon, recall from Tracer. Azure narrowly manages to get away. Divine Shield onto Coffee. but the first frag is going to be Alarak. ETC goes down as well. Panda is getting chunked for days, and now Gondo out of position. That is what we were talking about from Crimson. The clean-cut style plays. That was a fantastic fight. Now, Li Ming, Copy, the only one left surviving. The Divine Shield came out early from Panda, saved him from certain death, but Jesmez, with that initiation, Tormented Souls just sucking up so much sustain. It was GG's from there.
Yeah, and speaking of near certain death, Azure got dropped incredibly low at the start of that fight. Had to back away, but was able to survive long enough. And also did enough to the Immortal that they were able to save their keep. So having that keep survive, even if it's barely standing, it's just got a few of those bricks still holding it together. They're able to keep their lanes not as like consistently pushed thanks to catapults, but now where they do have a little bit of an experience lead on the side of Crimson, we'll have to see if they can get those fights to happen again, because we're seeing some of the damage numbers coming out from this Outlaws lineup. There's a lot of damage coming out, and there's not really the durability outside of the Johanna that the Crimson lineup has. They're more reliant on sustainability, so if they can survive through that burst, they should be fine in these fights, but it's going to be rough.
ETC just completing Prog Rock as well, so that's going to come in handy coming into this next fight. Will he land a godlike mosh pit? Oh, he's in good position to do so. Power slide in. Or will he pop it? He's just waiting. You can see the trigger. The finger is on the trigger, but decides against it in the end there. Good composed play. It would have been a three-man mosh, but the stun out was there. Immortal now being spawned. Again, Crimson are going to go for their Shaman camp. Let the minions do the dirty work. The one thing they do need to be careful of is a counter push from Outlaws in the bottom lane, because their bottom keep is extremely low here.
One thing to note also is that the Dragon's Arrow was used. It was an attempt on the Johanna, but didn't really get any value, so that's another 40 seconds down. As a nice engage, but don't manage to get too much. As Azori's on the backside, pressuring the Hanzo, forcing him into a really awkward position, and now they're starting to move their way into towards the fight.
The mosh pit comes out there, but Divine Shield just a little bit too late. Oh, sorry, there's the mosh pit. The Divine Shield was extremely early. Now Pandemonium taking a lot of heals, but lots of damage coming out. Tracer gets dropped, as does Malthael, and the Outlaws take control of this fight. They've got currently only a one frag advantage. They did lose Hanzo, so disappointing their copy is, well, with a sliver of HP, but Panda is there to apply band-aids and keep him alive. KVA, though, extremely low, but he does not care. Lahal gatekeeping that Immortal. On guard duty. KVA had eyes on him the whole time. Now Panda comes in and says, hey, get out of here.
I'm just going to say that Azure is not going to be very happy for looking at the replay of that. He dashed into the mosh pit and then got smacked with a Discord strike, so that was... I'm just going to say that that was not his best moment. He was doing so very well, managed to clean up the Hanzo on the backside, but then just walked into a brick wall. Simple as that. And from there, it was just lights out for the fight. That was a lot of their damage just really just down the drain. And it was, as I mentioned, it was a good start to the fight. But yeah, once that mosh pit came out, it looked like there wasn't going to be too much. But once everyone just kind of stacked up on a Discord strike, that's when it turned back around for Outlaws.
Ruthless. I'm just going to have a quick look at the talents. He's actually completed Chaos Reigns, has Lahal on the Alarak, so that is going to be doing a lot more damage. I believe there's an extra 100 damage once you complete all the quests there on the Discord strike, so that's going to chunk massively, and if he lands them, which he is, we just had a little bit of a disconnect there. Altivian making his way back in, and here we go. We're back on. Currently, it's Crimson versus Outlaws. Crimson with a 1-level advantage, but the Outlaws, they're controlling fights here at the moment, and they currently have the advantage on the Immortal. So Crimson playing the macro game, and well, that's what we're talking about. Lahal catching Altivian, doing a good 60% of HP there to the Tassadar. Oh, big Dragon's Arrow collects 3. Wave of Force, Force of Will comes in there from the Li Ming, and there is just so much damage being poured out here. The Outlaws just lathering it on here. Jesmez, will he get away? No, Coffee comes in with the blink. Arcane misses combo, and 3 frags now for Crimson, none for Outlaws. They're looking pretty. They level up the EXP. They're going to take the advantage here as well. They're going to get the Immortal too, and that is what you call a good fight.
That is exactly what they wanted. They wanted to pick apart those targets, and they have a lot of damage on the side of the Outlaws, and when they're able to get it to stick, well, there's not really a hell of a lot that you can do when you're on the Crimson lineup if you just get blasted by silencers, all the damage coming out of Hanzo and Li Ming. I mean, there's only so much damage you can take, and especially when you have this very squishy lineup. Sure, it was the Johanna that got picked, but she has physical armor, doesn't have much in the way of spell armor, and a lot of it was just spells being blasted right at her dome. And once that goes down, there's not really a hell of a lot the Crimson can do, especially when they don't have that front liners. They do get a nice mosh pit going in.
Oh!
And 2 members.
KFA gets absolutely melted. Shadow's going to be done in the exact same fashion. Destroyed there, so without the heals, without the front line, all that's left is the Tracer Dark combo and the Malthael. And Crimson will be quite happy to see Outlaws knock this one down, soak up as much time as they can before their teammates come back. Bottom keep is extremely low as well. Crimson could go for a very fast rotation here, but they're not going to bother because the Immortal has still got himself a little bit of shield, pushing now onto this core. I think that might be the win condition. Joanna up in 7 seconds. Malthael's down now, and I think that goes any chance. Tracer's down. They tried, they failed, and the Outlaws boys and girls come out on top with the victory.
Yeah, that's only game 1 of this best of 3, but a very solid performance coming out of them. And we're talking about how very precise this Crimson line has been throughout the day. And yes, we saw flashes of that in those 1 team fights, but was just way too much damage coming out. And when you're walking a tightrope with a composition like that, once you start falling off and start getting put behind, it's very hard to get yourself back into the game. And we saw just how much of a struggle it was for Crimson to try and re-establish a foothold.
It was. They had the EXP advantage for a while there, but there was one fight in particular where the Outlaws were able to get up on top. They came out with very early frags. I believe they picked up. It was the Jesmez, the Malfield, extremely early, and from then on, without that sustained from the Tormented Souls coming in, just struggled a little bit. In fact, the biggest, the most hero damage coming out was actually from the side of Altivian on the Tassadar. So there wasn't a lot going on in terms of big chunks. I mean, you have a look over at the side of Outlaws, you got Hanzo doing 49k, Coffee doing 44k on the Li Ming, and then Tassadar topping it on the side of Crimson with only 29. That sort of sums it up a little bit. So the Outlaws winning it on all fronts in that one.
Yeah, it's just a little bit too much for Crimson to deal with. And when you only have the Lucio, yeah, he's still very strong in the current meta, but his healing numbers have been hit, and when you don't really have the beefy frontline Malthael, yeah, he has a lot of sustain, but he doesn't really have the beefiness that you'd want out of a frontliner. And when he's walking into that much damage, and also the silence from the Alarak, he has to be very careful. And when you, as I mentioned, as you fall off that tightrope, it's not going to look pretty.
Lahal's Alarak was fantastic as well. I mean, to get up Chaos Reigns, to catch, multiple people in the same Discord strike. Yes, you could say he was lucky to get the early frag onto Azure when he got caught on the side of the Discord strike. That rarely happens. There's like a happening because that hitbox is actually very, very tiny. It looks bigger than it is. So, well done there to Lahal. Well done there to Outlaws. But Crimson, they are not a bad team in the slightest. So they will know how to answer back here. It looks like we're going to be going over to Tomb of the Spider Queen, ladies and gents, for the next round. But while we get everybody into the lobby, we just want to throw it over to the desk, Skimmy and Vandy.
Thank you very much there, Kev Fox. And yeah, a fantastic showing, a fantastic game. And it all comes down to my big friend Hanzo, in my opinion. That one talent in particular, countering 4 heroes, Vandy. What an absolute showing.
It was. I mean, this shows that it's really nice to look at what the enemy team is playing and make sure that you're not using just a cookie cup build like, oh, I always pick this because it works. But think about who are you versing? That talent was getting so much value. We were all looking at shield breaker arrows. And I mean, Gondo, just for picking that up and just being able to sit back, constantly applying that pressure. I mean, it shows in his hero damage numbers as well, achieving 49k at the end there. So that's a mammoth effort right there. And Crimson, they had a really good early game, but then they started to lose steam in the mid to late. And a lot of that was, I think, the fights coming out on the side of Outlaws, they were reading, okay, what do we need to do better? Our positioning was a little bit off. Let's make sure that we use our poke, because they had a lot of it. And then when they were getting low, make sure that they go for the engage. They played that one very, very well. And it's the second game now that I felt like Outlaws, they've looked a little bit rocky at the start, and then mid to late game, they really started to shine.
Yeah, it's almost like they need a bit of time to sort of wake up. Like, maybe we can call them the coffee team. I mean, you need to have coffee in your teams need to wake up. I mean, I'm thinking outside the box here, guys. Don't hate on me too much. We're going to call them the caffeinators, but enough about me and my silly fillies. Enough about me and my silly fillies. I think the one thing that really stood out to me, just as we wait for this next lobby to get set up, was that fight. GeoPhoenix highlighted at one point. It was 12 minutes into the game. It was by the Immortal itself. 2 people are caught into that mosh pit, and then 2 more ran inside the mosh pit. Lahal's like, is this a dream? Am I in a lucid dream right now? What the hell's happening? Comes with a Discord strike, knocks them out to Chinatown and says, well, thank you very much, and picks up an easy win just like that. So, yeah, benefit of eternity. I mean, it is what it is. At the end of the day, 200 Spider Queen is where we're now going to be moving to, and this is an age-old favorite for Darksider, but that's not who's playing. We've got Crimson and the Outlaws. So I want to see who now favors this map, because this is an ANZ fan favorite.
It's a staple, definitely. We've always seen Darkside. This was their secret weapon up their sleeve. We always said they need to pull that out if they needed a win, need to make it happen. Could a new team be taking up the title of Tomb? Let's see. I mean, both teams have, like, these games are so enjoyable to watch because they've been very, very close. And this is kind of the quality that we're very excited to see in the coming year. So, yeah, keep it up, guys. Like, plenty more, right?
I see Hiccups in the chat as well, so potentially they're actually trying to sub Hiccup in over Pandemonium, and that would just add another element to this team. That would be the full 5-man roster. That would increase their power level over 9,000, as some would say, right? So let's see.
Panda's done a stellar job. You can't, like, write her off. She's done a stellar job cutting in, and it's really, really funny because everyone's like, I think Panda does a better job than Hiccup. I mean, this is the ANZ memes coming out, right?
And also, the big props.
Yeah. So also, we'll just talk a little bit about the bracket and how things are going down in the loser bracket. So we did have Rich Gang defeating Downfall to make it. Now there is a show between Rich Gang and Darksiders. So the winner of that will then go on to the grand finals. So stay tuned. That's happening in the background as well.
That is happening in the background. What's happening in the foreground right now is us looking at a lobby screen with 3 empty slots thinking, why, what is ever going to happen? But discussing that, we do have something to talk about in the meantime. We have a big shout out, obviously, to Blizzard ANZ for surprising us and actually supplying us with some codes to give away for the teams that come first all the way down to 4th.
Exciting.
So there will be some prizes and offer for these guys. It's like we're back in 2015 where you played for skins, not for cash. That's what you want, but that's not what you need when it comes to the ANZ HGC, all opening up 8 teams, all with a guaranteed prize money. This is the prelude, obviously, to that. This is how you get your warming up all ready to go. Kev Fox in the singlet and me in a hoodie. That's just the difference between A and Z.
Australia, everyone's just sweating and dying, and you're just sitting there shivering, sitting tight.
You know, I'm not making any sweaty plays today, mate. I'm just looking cool, calm, and collected as I see Pandemonium pending, Gondo pending, and 5th and final spot ready to rock and roll. But Timber Spider Queen, if there's anything to go off on this one, I would like to once again, I feel like Crimson should have the edge on this.
Crimson, yeah. I mean, if they finally can utilize the early game potential that they got, really leverage it and stop Crimson in their tracks. Stop Outlaws in their tracks. Just make sure that there's no chance of getting to that mid to late game power spikes, because that seems to be the draft as well that Outlaws are favoring. I mean, Lahal as well, always on those power heroes that just get stronger, either through quests or through just time itself. Just be very, very mindful of that. And Gondo as well, playing that Hanzo, just showing a lot of flex versatility coming out of this guy right here.
Yeah, man, and this is a guy that's been playing a lot of Hero League right now. You can see they're 5th on the GM ladder, a guy that's been playing tons and tons, and especially Dahaka, trying to make himself known as the Dahaka of the ANZ region. We have a few, obviously, I don't want to say one-tricks, but heroes or players known for their hero specialties, and he's trying to achieve himself as the Dahaka mate. Coffee's in, and the caffeinators are 4 out of 5. As we get ready for this game.
They're shaking the coffee beans, waking them up, saying, come on, come get your fix.
I tell you what, mate, they're being basic right now at Starbucks, waiting for their caffeine. Oh, dear.
Basic. I mean, if we talk a little bit more about the map as well, what do you want to draft on Tomb of the Spider Queen? We know it's a very, very small map, so you really just need to be mindful of the rotations. Lucio will be in hot contention, I feel, for both teams, whether who's going to secure him first, because he can just work so well in assisting those rotations and trying to catch someone out.
Yeah, and I mean, Lucio and Tested have always been a bit of a staple in terms of rotational advantages, especially if you've got good wave clear. On top of all those things considered, you're bouncing between lanes, you're getting XP quicker, they're trying to do the rotate, you command every aspect of that map. And if you hit level 10 first, it snowballs out of control with the arachnophobia then beaming onto the map itself. But I mean, we saw really what Hanzo can do to try and interrupt that. He's kind of like Kel'Thuzad and how he really functions, especially if you go for the scatter shot build.
Yeah.
Or actually any build for that matter. You're looking to get stacks. You're looking for those fights. You're looking for that early game power spike. And in the case of stacking a lot of shields, well, the Stormbreaker really did bring some pain.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it any better myself, Skimmy. And this is why. I mean, it's so good to have us back sitting here just trying to pick apart the teams, anticipate what are they going to pick. It looks like we've got a final, like the cafenets have woken up. We've got a full lobby. We're just confirming that we're ready to go. We can get the show started. So thank you very much, everyone who's tuned in.
Thank you very much for checking out your Airbnb and getting ready for
Spoil
this
is
game.
saying no. They're saying wait. Pandas, be right back. Something going on? Not yet. We teased you.
I ordered a mocha latte, not a mochaccino. What is this?
Where's my pumpkin spice latte?
Excuse me, you didn't give me 2 pumps. I asked for 1 pump.
Where's my unicorn frappuccino? I would love one of those. It's so hot. I would kill for a frappuccino right now. Like, it's like 40 degrees now, so we're sweating it out.
We're sweating it out.
I want to watch the team sweat it out.
We're getting closer to it. Step by step we go. You know.
Well, Skimmy, you did talk about that wave clear being so important on Tomb of the Spider Queen, and it really does make a big difference. So, I mean, Greymane, Nazebo, we can see the Toad build coming out. If Nazebo is picked up by Lahal again, can get a lot done. But yeah, the wave clear helps so much because, as you said, you clear the lane, then you rotate up, and then you try and catch someone. So this is about a little bit. You need to be very mindful of the minimap and make sure that you know where the enemy team is at all times. Otherwise, you can just get caught out, and then suddenly you've lost the objective, and everything's getting pushed down. Like, it can just all kind of burn up, right? You don't want that.
Yeah, it's just not a good story. It's kind of like watching somebody go through a bit of a mental breakdown right before your eyes. You're thinking, well, you know, that's why I guess I get placed in plat sometimes. But